Welcome back to another Zero Context Patreon. Start advertising my Patreon content one out of context theater moment at a time. I finished up the tail end of Stolen, the second book of the Bitten and Bound books. Then I jumped into From Blood and Ash. My sister isn't violent, but I struggled for words that didn't want to come because I'd failed Evelina. It was another shame on top of a mountain of sin I carried. I took a deep breath and tried again. Evelina is cruel to the males she pursues, and she pursues every male she can. It's like she's driven by lust she can't control, but she's wed now, Gibbon said. Full offense, but being married hardly stops a lot of people from cheating. I'm not defending cheating. All I'm doing is calling out Gibbon's nativity. Does it bother you, my queen? Medan said in Lauren's voice. He shoved me into a chair, tangled a hand in my hair, and forced my gaze to the vine-covered great hall, as if now it was Lauren's red chamber and the dancers were gone. Let's just have a look. Lauren and Varric stumbled into the chamber, ripping at each other's clothing like they couldn't strip fast enough. After a few fumbling seconds, Varric growled, grabbed Lauren around the thighs, and hoisted him up. His big hands squeezed Lauren's ass, his knuckles turning white. Lauren swore, wrapping his legs around Varric's waist, and nipped at Varric's mouth with his fangs. Rather than to not write this long-ass kidnapping scene, instead the author is going to do this bizarre and convoluted way to show us another graphic sex scene of Varric and Lauren, all where Varric been given or kidnapped. So he wants his sister dead, he'll kill his only living relative to reclaim a strip of land along his northern border? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. A sister that Roland's biological mother raised him was absolute fucking trash and should have never been born. Even if Roland himself treated Gibbon kind of nicely, there's no way that he didn't internalize some of that. The evidence is obvious with the fact that Roland is now hoping to sacrifice his sister to save part of his kingdom. Maybe it was time for a new way. Yes, I could make a better one. I wasn't just a halfling. I was heir to the throne of Evandalia. Queen Vera's sword was warm in my hand. Yes, but it belonged to me now. Yes, and it would deliver cold vengeance. Yes, the time of kings is over. Nordor would born under Lauren, but with me on the throne, the people would flourish. Yes. Look, man, I'm not saying she's wrong. Varric, why don't you look at me? His golden brown eyelashes fluttered to his chest. He shook his head. Varric, because, he whispered, and he opened his eyes but kept his gaze glued to the spot on the floor. I forced you. Back there. I took you, and I know you didn't want it. He exhaled harshly through his nose, and a violent shudder passed through him. Gods, he rasped, his voice breaking. Something inside me broke too. Without being totally aware what I was doing, I grabbed his thick bicep and turned him towards me. When he still wouldn't look at me, I grabbed his face in both hands and pulled his head up. Varric, I want you to listen to me very carefully. What you and I did is not the same as what happened to you. It's not the same. You didn't force yourself on me. I'm kind of glad that they're actually talking about it and not trying to pretend like it didn't happen. That while it was rape, it's not like both of them walked away unscathed. However, since they are talking about it, can we also talk about Varric ordering Lauren to go down and Gibbon in book one? Because that was also not okay. You mean Roland wanting me dead? Varric looked at me sharply, but I kept my attention on Jordan. He sent the soul stone to Carton. Yes, but there's something you don't know, Your Grace. Castor has your brother's ear, and he is convinced Roland the prophecy refers to you, that your death will lift the curse your father invited when he took an elven born as his second queen. Varric made a disgusted sound. Now there's a curse? Queen Alyssa lost her child, Jordan told me, and Princess Catherine is ill and expected to die. Roland has grown increasingly obsessed with his inability to sire his son. Castor's machinations have found fertile soil in your brother's mind. And what would Roland do after his sister is dead, but the curse wasn't magically removed, because there is no curse, only bad biology? I'm not accusing you, he huffed. You have better taste than Riz the Fair. After everything, I couldn't believe he'd chosen to focus on this. Are you really jealous of Riz, or are you just irritated that I might actually prefer living apart from you, as in separate cities? His eyes darkened. He started to speak, then clamped his mouth shut, falling silent once more. We read that way for a moment, the muted sounds of jingling harnesses and the nice murmured voices behind us. I am jealous, he said after a minute, drawing my gaze again. He looked at me, and he smiled a little at the surprise that must have shown on my face. You wanted to go to Alvarez. You looked happy when you saw the Bandit King. The bar for proper behavior towards Gibbon is on the fucking ground here. Of course Gibbon is happy to see Riz. He treated her like a fucking person and actually bothered to explain shit to her. Lauren could and would never. Varric loves you, and I know you love him. I searched for a way to put my feelings for Varric into words. We went through something together, and you will again, he said grimly. This prophecy dogs our steps, despite what we may wish otherwise. And there it is. The reason why the two of them are never going to work out any longer. He doesn't actually give a hoot about her. He only thinks about her in terms of what she can do for him, or rather what he thinks she can do for him. Another muffled sob drifted from Roland's tent. I hesitated, recalling Catherine's recent death. I kind of feel like the author was so focused on them banging that she literally forgot to tell us that Gibbon's niece had died. in a little under a year upon my 19th birthday. Oh, good, she's over 18. Oh no, this means that there's gonna be sex in this. It wasn't often that could be said about a male, but I could think of no better word to describe him. He had dark, thick hair that curled at the nape of his neck and often fell forward, brushing equally dark brows. The planes and angles of his face made me yearn for some talent with a brush or a pen. His cheekbones were high and wide, nose surprisingly straight for a guard. Many of them had suffered at least one broken nose. His square jaw was firm and his mouth well formed. The few times I'd seen him smile, the right side of his lip curved up, and a deep dimple appeared. If he had a matching one on his left cheek, I didn't know. But his eyes were by far his most captivating feature. This would have been less obvious if the author had clonked us upside the head with a brick. As far as I knew, there had only been one person who'd been found unworthy upon ascension. Their name had been erased from our histories, as well as any piece of information about who they were and whatever deed that had caused his or her exile. They'd been forbidden to live among mortals, and without family support or protection, faced certain death. Even the villages and the farmers, with their small rises and guards, suffered staggering mortality rates. I better to spend an entire chapter with her talking with this hot guard. How about some fucking context for all this? No? Fuck us? Okay. Glancing over his shoulder to where two city guards shaded under the yellow glow of the street lamp, Victor quickly pulled the handkerchief off the door and slipped it into the pocket inside his dark cloak. The small white cloth was a symbol of the network of people who believe death, no matter how violent or destructive, deserves dignity. It is also evidence of high treason and disloyalty to the crown. Again, these first 3 chapters should have been explaining this to the readers, not bogging us down with her sneaking around a body house and then failing to explain what was going on. You know that the Duke would do if he ever found out. Trust me, I know. It's not likely I'll ever forget any of those times I had to help you walk back to your room. His voice hardened and heat blasted my cheeks. I hated that. Hated the way I felt for something someone had done to me. Absolutely hated the heavy shame that threatened to choke me. I wish I knew what they were talking about. Again, we are literally 5 chapters in now. 74 freaking pages, and we don't know what the actual plot is. We don't know why she's so important. We don't know anything. Instead, we're faffing about with the most asinine stuff imaginable. Then the narration turns around and acts like we're supposed to know what the hell is happening here. I'd never actually seen an Atlantean, at least I don't think I had, and that was the problem. Atlanteans looked like mortals. Even the extinct Wolven, who had once lived among the Atlanteans in Atlantia, could easily be mistaken for mortals, even though they had never been. The Atlanteans' ability to blend in with the populace they were known to subjugate and hunt them made them deadly expert predators. One could walk right past me and I wouldn't know. Neither would the Ascended. For some reason, the gods hadn't taken any of that into consideration when they initiated the blessing. Sure, Jan, you could call them fucking zippity flute flu and it would still be a freaking vampire at the end of the day. Do you understand how important you are, Penelope? You are the maiden. You are chosen by the gods. Ascension of hundreds of ladies and lords in wait all across the kingdom are all tied to yours. It will be the largest ascension since the first blessing. Rylan and all the royal cards know what is at stake if something were to happen to you. Okay, but we still don't know what any of this actually means. Who decided that she was the chosen one? Copyright. Did their deities send a note down explaining all of this, or was her name picked out from a hat by the queen or something? Mainly because I think a lot of you will agree with me about this. A lot, and I mean a lot, of these chosen one stories are usually people twisting prophecies to suit their own agendas. Looking at you, Prophecy from Bitten and Bound series. You may continue to act as if angering the Duke is no big deal, but you know that will not lessen the weight of his anger. Earlier, Victor told Poppy that it didn't matter what she did, that she was still going to be forced to ascend. I kind of scoffed over the entire thing at the time. After hearing that Poppy's ascension is going to let thousands of others also ascend, suddenly I understand what Victor was saying. Honestly, if I was Poppy, I would go back to the house of ill repute and do stuff until I suffer actual consequences, either pregnancy or an STI. What are you going to do? Not let me ascend? And risk those thousands of people also not ascend? Fork you, buddy. I didn't sign up for this. How can anyone mortal be unmoved by the mother's pleas, her cries at her husband's desolate hopelessness? But I already knew the answer to that. The Ascended were no longer mortal. Ye smell voice. What matter is it to me if you people have, what was it again? Oh yes, other children. We demand more servants. As Victor had said, this was a time of unrest and it was spreading. I didn't think all could be blamed on the dissenters. Some of the fault could be laid at the feet of the natural order of things to the right, which is beginning to feel unnatural when extenuating circumstances as the Tullis's plight were ignored. This is a refreshing change. I've been reading way too much where I'm begging the main character to please stop woofifying the obvious villain, which is their own side. In just one day, it had become almost painfully evident how lax Rylan had gotten in terms of security. Granted, there hadn't been an attempt before, but he had softened. I hated even acknowledging that. It felt like betrayal to do so, but that wasn't the only thing that made this branch so very different from the ones before. Yes, he had gotten a bit soft, but blaming him for a man breaching multiple outer layers of security is outlandish. Like, fix your forking security rather than blaming one guard for his own death. You are. His stare was intense and unblinking as he sheathed his sword at his sides. You're absolutely magnificent, beautiful. I jolted, shocked. He'd said that I was beautiful before once he saw my face, and he sounded like he'd meant it then. But now he'd spoken words which too often meant nothing and too rarely meant everything. And he said them in such a manner that there was even a tight, tense, curling sensation low in my stomach, even though he had no idea who he spoke to. My heavy hood remained in place. Oh my fucking god, we get it. Move on. You have nothing to say about that? He paused, and his voice was barely above a whisper when he said, Penelope, damn it. I exhaled noisily, unsure if I was relieved or afraid that I no longer had to wonder if he knew. The confusion spiked my irritation into uncharted territories. Are you just now figuring that out? If so, I'm concerned about you being one of my personal guards. He chuckled deeply, the sound infuriatingly infectious. I knew the moment you removed your veil. My lips parted in a thin exhale. Why didn't you say something then? To you, he asked, or to the Duke? Either, I whispered. Exactly how fucking stupid does she think Hawke is? As I said before, he's not Benedict Bridgerton, who was a rather special kind of stupid. Why were you in your room for almost 2 days after being summoned by him? Sharp, biting pain radiated from where my nails dug into my palms. The flames were dying, flickering softly. What did he do to you? Hawke asked, his voice too soft. Suffocating shame crept up my throat, tasting acidic. Why do you even care? Why does he care? Because not everybody is a literal inhuman monster. We didn't fail you, but the gods are unhappy. That is why the Craven reached the top of the rays. Ah yes, the old standby. This terrible thing is happening because you did a bad thing. In order to stop this from happening again, you need to be more devout. Most of you will not be so fortunate. They'll tear into your flesh and tissue, feasting on your blood while you scream for the god that you've lost faith in. Ripped straight from the pages of How to Be a Cult Leader, not even pretending. I wouldn't be surprised if more people thought along the same lines, Hawke commented, and both Tawny and my head swelled in his direction. He walked beside me, only a step behind. He raised his brows. None of those children have been seen. They've been seen by the priests and priestesses and the Ascendant, Tawny corrected. The children have only been reported to still be around by the people who kidnapped them away from their family. Girl, do you even hear yourself? It seems to me that this honor that has been bestowed upon you comes with very few benefits. You're not allowed to show your face or travel anywhere outside the castle grounds. You don't even seem all that surprised when the priestess moved to strike you. That leads me to believe that it's something fairly common. He set his brows dark slashes above his eyes. You are not allowed to speak to most, and you are not to be spoken to. You're caged in your room most of the day. Your freedom restricted. All the rights others have are privileges for you, rewards that seem impossible for you to earn. Oh my god, thank you. At this point, Hawke would have to start murdering babies for the narration to convince me to hate him. These Ascended are freaking monsters. Death with dignity, the Duke scoffed, and my eyes widened. He knew about that, about us. Those bleeding hearts will be the death of the entire city one of these days. Out of all of the unnecessarily cruel things that are going on, I think that this one is the worst. Like, how dare the peasants, what was it again? Oh yes, to die with some measure of dignity. They're supposed to be serving us, not mercifully killed in their own beds surrounded by family. He was still looking down at the book. It was a long time ago, though. A long time ago. When you were what, a child? I asked, knowing he couldn't have been more than a handful of years older than I was, despite the way he made it sound as if it were an eternity ago. Excuse me, I have to go beat my head against a wall for a bit. Remember who you are, Penelope. You are not to mingle or socialize. You must attend this ceremony, which will be full of onlookers, but don't talk to anybody. Make it make sense. Even though stolen kisses weren't forgivable, at least according to the Duke and Duchess and the Queen. Then again, if the gods were to intervene, wouldn't they have done so already? I thought about what Tawny had once said about not being sure whether the rules imposed upon me were a decree from the gods. And if I had interpreted what the Duchess had said about the First Man incorrectly, she'd done a lot of forbidden things. She hadn't been found unworthy. It's almost like it's all bullshit made up in order to control women. How weird is that? Stay connected by joining Patreon as a free member, which gives you access to the same content you've been enjoying on Tumblr. However, for just $1 a month, you can join my Patreon and gain access to this month's book snark, plus enjoy early access to my free daily snark. Thanks for watching. See you next month, guys.